Okay, so problem solving 101. This is not difficult. Everybody read the book, right?
What did you
Ready for this test? I'm not even ready for a test. My brain's.
That's exactly why I asked you before we left last week. We have a test.
Okay, so you probably read the book and you're thinking, oh my God, why are we reading a children's book? How many think that? Why are you reading a children's book? Everybody raise their hand. Well,
Easy read, I like.
easy to read. I like that. Well, this guy, this Ken Wannabe, he come up with this children's book, right? And it became so popular, and it was so simple that it got adopted into business. I'm going into in-depth details of it, but that's what happened. And so, it basically, he teaches this to children in Japan. And it became so popular, you know, kids are bringing this book home, their parents are picking it up. We should have a class like this. And so that's what started. So it is a children's book. When you're through with it, you can't sell this one back to the bookstore. You won't get nothing for it. It's only a $7 book. That's another point.
And do you not want them back there so we can write in our book?
Yeah, they're yours.
Okay.
Keep them.
Oh, yeah, I'm terrified.
Give them to your kids when you're done. So, you're never too old to become a problem-solving kid. That's the theory. All right? How many people throw their hands up and say, I can't fix it. It's too much. Somebody else needs to deal with it. Everybody in here has done this, right? Did it ever accomplish anything? No.
Just make somebody mad.
Never accomplished anything, right? So, hopefully throughout this class you get the mindset and the skill set to problem solve. Because no matter how complicated the problem is, it's just a series of smaller steps until you reach your goal, right? That's it. Some problems are so big. How do we solve world hunger? I don't think about that. How do we feed the kids at Fort Smith?
You start out by steps, you know. You start
Yeah,
out
let's worry about
food.
that. Let's start. Well, let's just see. We can't solve world hunger, but hey, we could feed the kids at Fort Smith. Well, what about, okay, well, they're all eating pretty good. Well, how do we go about feeding the kids in Arkansas? How do we feed the kids in the rest of America? So forth and so on. You get where I'm going with that? Just small things. I like this. I like this statement. The kinds of problems that might cause most people to throw up their hands and give up, but problem-solving kids aren't like most people, even though most people should be more like them. Be more like a problem-solving kid. So, what kind of person are you? I just like that. I like to dance more stuff. He shows up on Google all the time. There's a big, have you heard that? Google Maps, you know, they drive around and do the street view. Oh, okay, and there's a big, there's actually a website devoted to crazy people dressed up that get caught on the Google car camera. And for some reason, the horse head is a big one. And so everybody's buying these horse heads, and they follow the Google car around and jump out in front of it. Well, jump out beside it so they get their picture. It's a way to live in infamy. Or
is there a way of finding out where the Google car's like going to be like the next day or something?
I think they pick it up on social media. Somebody sees it driving around their town. I think they
put it out.
They've covered most of the United States already, I think. So, collected everybody's Wi-Fi network.
There's one of them that stays in Alma all the time.
So,
He's on White Station Wagon. He's all the time.
yeah, those cameras on there, or the big unit on top is collecting Wi-Fi signals, open Wi-Fi. I mean, whoever programmed it said, let's just get everything we can, and then there's a big deal about that, about privacy concerns. And then in Germany, they pretty much killed Google Street View because they passed a law that says you can't put anybody's face on the internet without permission. Or so anybody had that set up a website, and people were going in there saying, I see my face. Goodbye, Google image. blank it out. So let's talk about some types of people. Let's talk about Miss Si. Miss Si gives up immediately whenever she faces a challenge. Okay? Here are some of the things that you could say. Let's go back. What do you think Miss Si would say? I know it's in your book.
I can't do that.
I give up.
This is impossible.
Blame my parents.
I blame my parents. There you go.
I blame my parents.
you. I blame my teacher.
You blame your teacher. Oh, man. Am I recording this live on the yes, I am. Blame the teacher.
Yeah.
What if I fail? Everyone will make fun of me. We've all thought that. So the people we're talking about, the thoughts have gone through everybody's head. Now it says Miss Si, of course this applies to men too. I blame my parents, I blame society, I blame you. Nobody understands me, nobody cares about me. Everybody's out to get me. Alright? That laugh. If you do drugs, that's what happens. Mr. Critic. That'll never work. He's always willing to speak up. We've all worked with those. We've all been one of them. We tried that 20 years ago. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. You're wasting your time. I told you so.
Mine is the only way.
But you always know that Mr. Critic, he's the first one to say, I told you so, but you don't hear a peep when it all works out. Oh, that was a good idea. I'm glad I thought of it. But no, you don't hear that. He's also kind of in charge and said, I told you what needed to be done. Why didn't you do it? A lot of this comes down from bosses. We've all seen people work that angle being a boss, Mr. Critic. Miss Dreamer. Head stuck in the clouds. I want to write a novel. How many people here started a novel? How many people finished chapter 1? How many people finished chapter 2? Oh, it's somewhere on that thumb drive. Chapter 1. Wouldn't it be great if I started my own business? All right. They come up with many great ideas. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I've got all these ideas. Don't bother me with the details. They never follow through. They dream up stuff. Right? I dream up stuff too. Everybody's got a little bit of this because you come up, man, wouldn't it be great if I did this to get this, fix my shop up this way, or do this to my house, rip up all the flooring, and I've got one room. All the flooring's been out of it. It's been on the works for 6 months, and I finally got to take the flooring out. The flooring's out, so that's been that way for a month. So I'm getting there. They just dream up the way things should be, but they never finish. Oh. For those of you on YouTube that didn't hear that, somebody from the back said, that sounds like my wife. Mr. Go-Getter. Mr. Go-Getter. He seems like he's a pretty good guy. He gets it done. Okay? He's kind of like a bull in a china shop. He's going ahead. It doesn't matter if it's actually backwards. He's moving. He keeps going. Right? I'll give you a story. You want a story? I try not to. I'm not going to bog us down too much with stories, but my grandpa was in the union, a pipe fitter, and he told me this story. He thought one of his best guys worked for him for at least a year. And he said, man, that's one of my best hands. And he'd watch. He was always a go-getter. He was going around, and he was moving, and he had a pipe wrench, and he had his tools. Until one day, he began to watch him a little bit closer. And he was running around with a wrench pretending to tighten stuff. He didn't know what he's doing, but he was moving all the time. He would just run around and put his wrench on there, pretend like he was doing something, and then move on, usually in front of the boss. He got away with it for a year. But he was a go-getter. He never accomplished anything, but he probably wasted more effort pretending to work than he did actually working. But it's not negative. Something goes wrong, he jumps into it. I'll never give up. I've got to overcome this challenge. I've got to try harder. I can't stop now. You ever heard the saying, work smarter, not harder? Okay. You know what the definition of insanity is, right? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. How many people work for insane people? Yeah, I'm not recording video now, so we don't see how many hands are raised. I'm just doing audio, and we're just doing the audio and the PowerPoint, so that's a good thing. Are you one of these types? Everybody should raise their hand. Everybody's been one of these. Everybody, do you find yourself going, oh, crap, I give up?
I'm a little bit off board.
Do you think it's easier to criticize other people rather than trying to do anything on your own? You like to dream about stuff but hate to plan it. Do you attack problems head on, but fail to turn on the brakes when you aren't getting anything done? Okay? You're just spinning your wheels. I'm extremely guilty of the last. Try not to be, but it's my nature. I've been in, I was in automation and industry. It took a lot of learning to realize that sometimes you had to stop, walk away, call tech support. Okay? If you're not getting anywhere, it's time to try a different path. Don't just keep plugging away on the same program trying to fix it. So, group role play. You're all thrilled about this portion of it, aren't you?
You know it.
I want everyone to get out a sheet of paper, write down a goal, ideal, invention, etc. I'll go ahead and pause the audio and give us a little bit here. Okay, we're back on. Nobody wanted to be recorded on YouTube, so we skipped that. There's my dancing cat.
All right, kid.
I like dancing cat. Yay, we're done through this part. Here's my dancing cat. So, one of the traits of a problem-solving kid. They have a flair for setting goals and accomplishing them. We all set goals. How many people gone on a diet? How many people fall off the diet? Keep your hands up. They overcome challenges. You know, some of the traits like Mr. Go-Getter, they have a positive attitude. That's the first thing. Number one rule of problem solving is a positive attitude. I am not a positive person. I'm a pessimist. But just because your nature is to be one thing doesn't mean you can't be something else. Most people that knew me earlier on in life would swear, you're what? A teacher? Okay, so there you go. But unlike Mr. Go-Getter, there's a balance between moving ahead and spinning your wheels, right? They seek a balance, all right? If you're not getting anywhere, regroup and try again. So, in order to be a problem-solving kid, as with Lean, we have toolbox. We've got some tools for problem solving. Now, here I can already tell you, you can just put a big circle in your book around this. Guaranteed to be on the test. There are some steps. Identify the root cause of the problem. Okay? Sometimes what we think is the problem when we start a project is not, once we investigate it more, we see that, no, that's a symptom. So we're trying to differentiate between the problems and the symptoms. And sometimes symptoms seem like problems. It's very easy to confuse them. Let's see if we can think of a good example. Anybody got a good example of that? Come on. See.
I can give you an example of a heat going out on chemistry, and we're thinking it's one thing, and it's actually the manganese is too high. Let's just pretend it's element, it's out, it's too high. So the heat's going to get poured back, it's scrap, $100,000. So instead of looking and saying, why did it happen, we're just saying it happened, and it's like maybe it took it too high and it actually was a hole in a spout, and it put too much into the steel is what happened.
Okay.
So we were chasing the manganese to fix it instead of looking back and seeing why did it get too much manganese and finding the hole. We did about 3 heats later after we had 3 more heats out of spec. Then we were like, oh, obviously we're getting too much manganese, and went and found the hole and was putting too much manganese in. That's
So
what we
the original symptom is it was getting too hot.
Right.
Get too hot in the furnace. So they were trying to figure out, well, what, the gas? Something's wrong with the burner. Something's wrong with the arc. Something is wrong with the oven if it's getting too hot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're pouring too much accelerant in the oven. That's what you're saying.
Right. Exactly.
Translate. Set goals. You know, if you don't set something you don't have, I mean, I'm going to go to work today is not a goal. I'm going to go to class today.
I'm going to leave it.
It's not a goal. Set something that you have to work to attain. Of course, positive attitudes. Stay focused on what can be changed rather than what has already been happening. That's called the what is. Right? Everybody have the what if. What if I'd done this different? What if I've done it? What if I had brought her flowers instead of going to the ball game?
In retrospect.
That's what you get to look behind. Now, not to say we don't learn from our mistakes, but don't be a worry wart is what I'm trying to tell you. Don't worry about stuff that's already happened. You can only fix what's coming up. You can learn from your mistakes, but don't worry about it. Then come up with specific action plans to fix their problems and execute right away. Once they take action, they constantly monitor their own progress. And here is the difference. They constantly monitor their own progress between a go-getter and a problem-solving kid, right? Go-getters just, they're full speed ahead. Problem-solving kids see they're not getting anywhere. They monitor their progress. So here are the things you might hear from a problem-solving kid. First, I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to accomplish this within 3 months. Well, let me rephrase. First, you hear a realistic goal. I'm going to increase production on line 1 by 20% by the end of the week. Does that sound realistic to you?
No.
This is a problem. Instead of worrying about it and wasting, how much energy do we waste to complain about something and worry about something? Why don't we just fix it? All the energy we expend worrying and complaining, half of that could be directed towards fixing it and it would go away, right? So what really caused this? This goes back to what's a symptom and what's a problem, how they can get confused. They state goals. To fix this, we're going to need to do X, Y, and Z. Let's try them out. Let's make a plan, okay? We've executed our plan. So how did this work out? What went wrong? What went right? They monitor. They continually progress. You try something. If it doesn't work, you don't throw up your hands. You step back and try something else, right? Because if we didn't have this attitude, I'd hate to say it, but we'd probably never make it to the moon. Right? That's impossible, right? We're going to put people in a tin can and send them to outer space. We did that in 1960. What was the date? Anyway, 60s. And we did it with a computer that's not any more powerful than your average Game Boy, or just nothing. We sent them all the way to the moon and back, right? Don't follow the herd. I already talked about hit on that point. Now, the trick of a problem is to determine if you save enough time and energy fixing it, then you gain dealing with it. That's not in the book. Okay, now I'm going to give you an example. I have a cabin out in the woods. I only go there one time a year. Well, I got to keep the bears out of my cabin, right? So every year before I leave, I take plywood and I nail it across all the windows of the cabin. And then every year I come back, I bring a hammer and I pull all the nails out, take down the wood, and I stay in my cabin for 3 weeks. And I repeat this year after year. And I think, wouldn't it be nice if I had metal? Oh, the cabin I have to fly to, right? I have to get dropped off in an airplane, right? And we're in Alaska. And I think to myself, wouldn't it be nice if I had roll-up metal shutters installed on my cabin? So when I got there, all I had to do was remove the lock and roll them up. Now, is it worth doing that?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Costs too much money.
What if I told you the roll-up shutters are going to cost me as much to ship in on the airplane as they do to purchase? Maybe I should just deal with the problem of spending a few extra hours taking the plywood off every year, because the amount of money it would take for me to fix the problem is not worth it.
Keep the cabin.
I was going to say maybe sell it.
Depends on how. That's another good point.
Well, how long are you staying at the cabin? I mean, because if you only got...
You're only doing this once a year,
Once a
regardless
year.
of how long you stay at the cabin.
Okay.
I'm being looking at, thinking like I'm thinking, if you can afford to fly to a private cabin,
Yeah.
you got the money for
You got
It depends on how you look at it, right? Everybody's judgment is different. You have to look at your own situation. I'm just saying there's instances, for me, personally, I could not bring myself to spend the money on it because I'm only doing this thing once a year. So, we run this product once a year at Christmas. Let's buy this $3 million machine to up our production on it by, well, let's buy this $3 million machine so we can package it faster and we can put, we don't have to hire all the extra help. Okay. Well, you do the math on it. What's your return on $3 million? Does the machine wear out before you pay for the labor you save on not hiring those extra people to package your product at Christmas? No, do the math. So you got to do that. All right? We have this problem. We need to package faster. There's two solutions. We buy a machine to do it for us, or we hire more people to do it. You know, I'm with hire more people to do it, right? Only one time a year. You have to worry about it for 2 weeks a year or something, you know. So that's the point I'm getting with problem solving. Some problems are not worth fixing. You gotta determine that. You with me? Clear as mud? Okay. On we go. So don't follow the herd. I like that. Down they go. Down they go.
Wow.
So that's one thing. Just don't follow somebody. Just don't run off into that pit. Okay. I like this video. Let's pull this down here. Let's see where we're at. My PowerPoint is not syncing up. So we're supposed to go to 38 today. Yeah, we're on track. Go ahead and pause this. There's the link. Okay. The point of that video was, don't make the solution more complicated than the problem, right? We've all seen that happen before, right? A little background, Rube Goldberg was an engineer in the early 50s. Of course, you can tell from the video. But what, you know, he would come up, he didn't want to be an engineer, so he wanted to be a cartoonist. So he would draw these cartoons, design these complicated machines to do something simple as turn on the light switch. Anybody ever heard of the game Mousetrap? You were a kid? Yeah, that was a Rube Goldberg invention. I don't know if he invented the game, but it was based on that principle, right? So, don't make the solution more complicated than the problem you're trying to fix. Point of that. As far as break goes, let's just keep going. Okay, so we got a little chart. Man, what is wrong with that projector? It's all bright stuff. I don't know. I know. It's been working. It's all washed out and bright. Anyway, so here's just a chart to illustrate how the different types of people go about this. All right? You got this in your book. This actually, it's in both books, so you can flip right in your book if you can't see this. It's in both books. Miss Sai. She never gets started, basically. Mr. Critic. Well, he kind of starts, but just doesn't get very far. Mr. Critic. You see the path he's following is just here and there. It's hit and miss. Miss Dreamer, of course, never gets started. Mr. Go-Getter, on the other hand, he reaches his target, but it's a very difficult process. He doesn't go in a straight line. Whereas a problem-solving kid stays on the straight and narrow with little deviation, right? So why are we doing all this about problem-solving, right? Well, what do you think a lean project is about, right? They kind of cross over, right? So back to this. I'm going to accomplish this within 3 months. We're going to set a clear goal. The best way to achieve a goal is to set a realistic goal. Okay? You want to achieve a goal, set a realistic goal. We kind of went over this. So, big difference between problem-solving kids is they get there more directly. Even with a, doesn't mean they get there the best. There's always correction, right? They start to veer off, they monitor their progress, and then they get back on track. They never stop monitoring their own progress to make sure they're headed in the right direction. While others get nowhere or headed in the wrong way, most problem-solving people have already reached their goal and are on to the next. Yeah, there they are, they're flying it. Now, this is a mindset. What we're trying to teach in here is kind of a mindset. They reach their goals faster, plus they evolve faster, right? You get in the habit of doing this. You apply it. You apply it to everyday things. Maybe you don't realize you go through all the steps, but you take some of them and apply it. And I'll give you an example. We'll get into some charts here in a second, but you know, I want you to think about this. Everybody in here who's working on their, anybody here working on their bachelor's? Yeah, you are. Okay. Well, then you can just plug in the word master. Those of you that are working on your associates, why should you go on and get your bachelor's degree? Will it benefit you? So I'm putting that out there right now. Maybe it won't, maybe it will. But part of your goals in here, we're going to lay out pros and cons. We're going to do a pro and con chart. You're going to lay out what are the benefits and what are the And I already tell you, one of the cons is it costs money. You already know that, right? More time and money. But problem-solving kids, they weigh the impact of their actions. They learn from their failures and success, just like any other person. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, repeating a different result. That's pretty much for most of the company. A lot of the companies around here, there is some part of them that are insane. I've never seen a company yet, any organization, that didn't do the same thing over and over in some aspect and they expect a different result. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean they don't change, and it doesn't mean it's the whole company. But, you know what I mean. What's a good example in industry? You're not recording so your faces, so don't use your company name. We are recording audio. Give me a good example. Nobody wants to speak up. How about this one? I've seen memos from companies about scheduling a meeting, about scheduling meetings. Oh, I've read it. Let's have a meeting about scheduling meetings for next week. So what does this sound like? All of this. Continuous improvement. Kaizen. Okay? That's basically the heart of the problem solving. Continuously improve. Never stop. Okay? We'll look at an example here. Alice, and Bianca, all own fruit stands. Each sells 100 watermelons per month. Alex increases his rate of sales 1% per month. Bianca's is 5%, Cliff's is by 10%. How different would their watermelon sales be in 3 years? Okay? Well, it's pretty simple. The people that are, even though they all start out selling the same, one is always trying to sell more. Okay? And so, overall, over the long haul, they continuously improve. Let's call it quits. We got a little exercise, so I'm going to call it quits right here. We're not quite where I wanted to be, but that's okay. Stop this broadcast real quick.